Today we're looking at a Polo, Volkswagen Polo 2003. It's a 1.2 3-cylinder 12 valve engine. So in this video I'm going to show you how to change the auxiliary drive belt, also known as a serpentine belt. You can see it there. The crankshaft pulley drives the belt round the air conditioning compressor, round the alternator, and at the back behind this bracket, which you can't see, it also drives it round the water pump pulley. At the bottom here, that there is an idler pulley, that there is the tensioner pulley, which is connected to a tensioner behind. In this video I'm going to show you how to take the tensioner out and clean it up, and how to adjust it. If the tensioner has seized, which prevents me from releasing the tension on the belt, and how am I going to get it off? Also, you might be wondering, how do you normally release the tension from the belt? Well, if you look here, just in the corner of the auxiliary belt tensioner, if I come in, you can see that there it is. Can you see it now? There's a Torx recess in there, and that Torx recess is TX50. Normally you would put a Torx bit in that Torx hole on a ratchet, or use a Torx key and just lift it this way, lifting this up, which would release the tension on the belt, and then the belt can be taken off nice and easy. But a common problem on these is that the Torx recess in that light aluminium casting strips out, and that has also happened on this one. So I'm going to get the belt off, and the simple expedient of pulling it off the pulley. It's not easy. There you go, see, like that. But it's hard to do with one hand, so you can see it's coming off though. So there we go, I've managed to pull it off the pulley, and you can see it's now loose on all the belts, and it's easy enough now to take it off completely. Now that the belt's out of the way, you can also see what I mean about the oiliness on the end of the engine. Okay. So that we can remove the idler pulley, you'll see that it's held on with a bolt through its axis, for which you will need a TX50 Torx bit. You can see I'm using one here on a ratchet screwdriver, on a ratchet handle. So remove the Torx bit first. And there it is, the idler pulley completely removed. I've still got the Torx bit in it there, just to show you that that's what you need. Torx TX50. And now, with the idler pulley removed, you can see that just below the tension pulley, you can just see at the back there, you can see the spring that acts on the tensioner, and you can see that there's a bolt that runs right through the middle of the spring and the mechanism that holds it into the engine. So I'm going to undo that bolt now and remove that from the engine. You'll need a 16mm cross flats socket or spanner, and you can see here that I'm also using a very short extension. And there you go, there's the socket with the extension and the ratchet handle on the nut, ready to come off. Just undo it in the usual fashion, and the whole thing just slides out. There you go, once the bolt has been undone, the tensioner just slides out of the engine. There it is, there's the tensioner. and there's the space that it went into. You can now see more clearly as well that there is the Torx fitting, where you're supposed to put a Torx thing to lift up the tensioner, to lift up this wheel and release the tension off the belt. But the Torx inside that recess has been stripped. You can also see how filthy dirty this one is. Now that I've got the tensioner mechanism on the bench, you can see if I put a screwdriver in the middle of the pulley there, I can gently pop off that cover, and you can see that there's a TX50, that's a TX50 Torx bit in the middle there. That's the TX50 Torx hole that you're meant to use to lift the tensioner wheel so that you can slacken off the belt. There you go. There's the tensioner. You can see I've given it a good scrubbing, given it a good clean with some engine cleaner and a good scrubbing with a couple of small brushes, rinsed it off. I'm sure I don't need to show you how to clean something up. I'm sure you can do that for yourself. But this here, this is the running surface of the idler. Once we've got it back on, we'll clean that surface up with some brake cleaner to make sure that the belt doesn't slip. So, as you can see, I've now cleaned up the tensioner mechanism, and as they say in all the best workshop manuals, assembly is the reversal of removal. So you can see it only goes in one way, you know, it won't go in the wrong way. Start the bolt off with your fingers. I've managed to get it in about 3 or 4 turns, I think, something like that. Okay, nip it up. Now the Haynes manual doesn't say what torque to tighten it up to, but it is quite a big bolt, M10, so I can afford to do it up quite tight. So I'll have to put the camera down while I do that. And if I put the Torx bit in the Torx head on in the pulley, you can see that now I'll be able to work the tension. You can see now I'm putting the idler pulley back in, and again just starting the bolt off by hand, screw it in as far as it'll go by hand, and then again get my TX50 and just nip it up. Again, I've got no torque information, so just nip it up moderately tight. So now you can see both pulleys in position. They spin quite freely, and as you saw a few moments ago, I can adjust the tension on the top pulley as well. And now I'm just going to use some brake cleaner and a bit of cloth just to clean up the pulleys where the belt goes round the pulley, so that there's no, just to make sure there's no oily residues that will contaminate the pulley, the belt, sorry. And you can see that I soaked the rag in a bit of brake cleaner, cleaned the pulleys, and you can see I've got some dirt and oily residue off. It's a good idea to get that removed. The pulleys don't need to be surgically clean, but just remove any obvious contaminants. And brake cleaner is a good thing to use because, as you can see that it says on this tin, it's fast evaporating. It pretty much doesn't matter what make of brake cleaner you get, they all evaporate very quickly and dry off, so you won't be wiping any residue of the cleaner off. Don't use anything like carburetor cleaner because that has oily compounds in it that for lubricating throttle parts. Also, we're going to use a new belt on this occasion. Now, this belt is a Dayco belt. I would recommend either Dayco or Gates. Both are excellent makes. I have heard it said that Dayco are actually made by Gates, but I'm not able to verify that information. But both makes certainly have a good reputation. Don't go buying a cheap belt. Get a Gates one or a Dayco one. You don't want it failing on you. The consequences of it failing when you're out on the road are that pulley at the very back here, it drives the water pump. So if this belt fails, you've got nothing to drive your water pump, which means you can't drive your car. If you do continue to drive your car with a broken belt, then it's like you're liable to cook the engine. It's as simple as that. I mean, you could manage without the air conditioning, and you could manage without an alternator for a short journey, on the battery alone, but you can't manage without your water pump. And just another word of caution, if you are going to reuse the belt that you took off, then mark the belt with a felt tip or a paint pen or a piece of tape. Mark it so that you know which way round it went on. You don't want to put a belt back on the opposite way round to which it came off, and for it to be going backwards from its point of view, because if you do that it will strain the belt, and again you could be susceptible to having a snap belt on the road. So again, that's another reason why I would recommend a new belt anyway. But this car is due a new belt. So once you've got the belt fed round all the pulleys, as you see, you can use your Torx bit to get the tension. I recommend that you feed it round all of the pulleys and then pull the tensioner up like this and put the belt round the tensioner last, having put it round all the other pulleys first. That would be my recommendation, and that's how I did it, and it worked for me. Also, before you even think about starting your engine again, do make sure that the belt is seated in all of the Poly V pulleys. Make sure that it's seated correctly all the way around, and double check it twice. Again, you don't want to throw a belt. It would be a waste of all that effort, a waste of a belt, and the potential is that you could wreck your engine, as we've already discussed. And hey presto, there you go. Start the engine and we've got a new belt. The pulley's all cleaned up, right tension, the tensioner's free, job's good. And finally, don't forget to put the little cover back on the centre of the tensioner pulley. And it wouldn't be the biggest disaster in the world if it got left off, but it just protects the bolt, and it protects the bearings that are in there from the ingress of dirt and water.